Welcome back to the Hollow Table Games Network. I'm Ginger Joey.
And I'm Corey Zor-El.
Corey Zorel. A little Superman reference, huh?
Yeah, there you
I
go. We
got it.
got the
I got it.
Supergirl trailer today, which looks fantastic, by the way.
Okay. Okay.
I've read the comic it's based on. It's basically Supergirl True Grit, which is interesting. And it looks like they're doing that for the movie too, which it's gonna be fun. It's a Western.
What?
It's a Supergirl
Oh,
Western.
Western. Okay. I was like, what do you mean by True Grit? Now I got you. The movie
Yeah,
True
the
Grit
movie
with,
True Grit.
got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. No,
Interesting. I'm
it's a
gonna have to look for
Western.
that trailer after we get done doing this then, because I haven't seen that yet. So,
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to it. As I said, after I read the comics, I was like, "Yep, I'm on board for this. This is going to be a great comic to adapt."
cool. Cool.
Yeah,
Right, this is our weekly SWUmary where we break down what happened over the last weekend's events because we officially have entered PQ season. So we
it
only
has
had a
begun.
handful of them. Huh? What'd you say?
It has begun.
It has begun. Yes, indeed. We only got a few of them hit so far, but it gives us at least some preliminary data. So as you can see, as far as planetary qualifiers, there's only 4 of them that happened. Well, I believe it's only 4. Maybe, hang on one second.
Yeah, I think it was just the four, right? It wasn't.
No,
Well,
because
there's the eternal.
there's a
There's the
limited
eternal
one.
and the limited, but
There was
those
an
don't. We
eternal
aren't talking
one,
about those.
and after that, it's just
Yeah.
minor tournaments and special tournaments. So there's technically, if we're sticking to only PQ games or PQ tournaments, there's only 4 of them that happened. So it
Yep.
gives us a little insight, not a great amount of insight, but it's just the beginning of the meta. So you
Yeah.
can see the
And
winners.
I will also say the one other thing I want to mention too is not only is it very early insight, it's also all European insight. So always be aware as well. The European meta tends to be a bit different than the American meta. So what we're seeing right now may not play out quite the same in the US.
That is true. So, so anyway, going off of this, we have a Tobias Red let's took this one down. Is this the tournament? No, that Betten one. No, that was the Cantina. So this is probably Betten inspired. And
Mm-hmm.
then this one took one down. And then after that, you can see it's a lot of pilots, and then a Talzin. A Jin Urso hit. Now this is one that we thought was going to be huge, and it just kind of never was there. And now we finally have a representation here for it. And then there was a
Yep.
lot of talk about this Darth Maul Blue Force as well being a very strong deck, and so it's good to see that represented. And then you can see in here, there is a Poe Yellow, which Corey is super excited for.
Yeah. Happy to see Poe Yellow placing. It is very pretty different from my list. I will say I took a look at it. It's very space heavy. It's very much a pilot dedicated base or deck, whereas my deck tends to try to split both arenas and do damage in both. So a little bit different on my side, but all still happy to see that. Glad to see more Poe representation. I still think he plays well against a lot of these decks, so that's good. I will mention also that Darth Maul deck. There's a lot of argument that potentially this is a better deck than Talzin. I think it's very possible, at least in the red blue side. It's a very good deck. And I do like it. And Talzin is struggling a bit right now. Yeah, she placed a bit here and there, but there's a lot of people playing it on a green base, which is that's an interesting one. A green force. She has a big issue with pilots. That's the biggest thing. Pilots are a problem for her, and also Lando is a big. Those Lando blues that are coming up, those kind of eat Talzin's alive.
Well, we'll get
And
into that in a little
that's
bit
pretty good.
because
Yeah,
I have some commentary for the Talzin stuff.
yeah.
Other than that, we go into this. We have a surprise, Colonel Yularen taking this one down. So you have a Chewie as your second place. Alliance
Yep.
Outpost. What is that? Is that blue? I think that's
That's
blue. I think that's
blue, I believe.
the
Yeah,
new blue deck or the new blue short base, the 25 base. I think is the Alliance Outpost.
something like that. I think it's interesting. Yeah, this one is particularly that Yularen popping up. That's a sneaky, scary good deck. It can push a lot of damage really quick and have initiative all the time to do it.
Yeah.
Um, you need to be thinking about that deck because I do expect to see more of that deck showing up in the near future. People are starting to glom on as an aggro deck. That thing just can absolutely tear.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because a lot of people have been speculating, and I kind of tend to agree with this right now. We're in topsy turvy land. Everything that the light side was doing good in the first seasons, the dark side does better now. And it's the same way with the inverse. The light side now, and it's kind of goes back to people are saying, oh, light side has all the control with Liberty, et cetera, and Bo Katan right now because they have the top end. And then
Yep.
you have people like Yularen, which is essentially Leia. It's like you're
Yep.
getting your aggro cheat action cheating going on to consolidate and just push damage as fast as you can. So we're kind of doing the inverse of what we were in the first couple years. So,
Yep. So yeah,
um,
glad to see that one. I think you're Joey. You're a little excited to see one right there. A little
yeah,
third
hidden
sister action.
third sister I like, and also the Qui-Gon Green Force I think is great to see on here as well. I thought both of those decks have always been pretty powerful, and both of them got a little bit of new tools to work with in this. So glad to see that they're doing some work now. Something to keep in mind, as we've always said though, is this was a 40-person tournament, right? This was a 63, so these are all like mid 40s ish tournaments. Sometimes, depending on how many rounds they're going to go, you're going to have more of the quote unquote rogue decks or one offs be able to make it. They can make a stance because of the way that we have IDs in the tournament system right now, you can just, win your first few rounds and then ID into the playoffs and
Yeah.
you're golden. So as long as you have a good beginning 3 or 4 rounds, then you're solid. It doesn't really matter at that point
Hmm.
in time. So sometimes these can be a little skewed as far as the how stable the leader is because you can squeak one in. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that none of these were earned or well deserved or hard fought or well played or anything. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I like seeing them on this level because we get more of a variety instead of it always being the same things over and over again. So it's good to see.
Hmm.
Then we have a Chewbacca pulling one in. Now Chewbacca has been the aggro king or aggro go-to for light side right now. Followed by a Vader in second place. Vader Yellow has been
Yeah.
seen as a lot of like it's always been a solid deck. It's always been a affordable deck to make, and it's always been a consistent deck. But it's one of those ones that like struggles to finally get over the finish line. Getting second place kind of plays into that, but it's still hitting top marks.
Yep. Yeah. It's a very good deck. I mean, I think the biggest problem for Vader right now is the
Luke.
space aggro can kind of Luke and the rest of the space aggro slows him down pretty quickly and usually beats him. And also Chewie can overrun him so quickly on the ground he can't do anything about it,
Yeah, Luke.
which is why Chewie ends up winning that one.
Sure, Luke is a big counter mainly because the ping from Luke basically is the counter antithesis to
Yep.
the TIE fighters. So,
Yep. Yeah, that pinging hurts him a lot. So one thing I'll mention on that list as well, we did see Obi-Wan Virgin Simple pop up. This, I believe, was the only time it popped up this weekend. It's getting played a lot. It's a very popular deck. It just can't get there, folks.
it's
it
it's
just
not converting
it
well.
no, it's a one trick pony is what I think is the big problem.
And then we see this one, which is
The
pilots,
Boba ones.
pilots, and pilots. You have
Yeah.
half Bobas, the other half are Luke and Vader, and then one Lando among them all. So,
Yep.
yup, yup.
This is what it's going to look like, folks. I don't
Pilots
expect
are
this
the
to
thing.
change.
So, if we want
You
to go over
need
to
to be
this
playing around pilots.
Well, you need to have an answer for pilots. So if we go to
Yep.
this website here, so meta overview, you can see that the number one archetype of deck played over the PQ weekend was actually Luke on
I think this is
Dagobah.
even more. This is over the entirety of the meta so far. So this isn't
Oh,
even
it's
just
not
this
just the
PQ weekend.
PQs.
This is just everything
Okay.
we're seeing so far.
Okay. So then Luke is your top, followed by that Obi-Wan Kenobi Virgin's Temple.
Yep.
Um, then Darth
Big drop
Vader
off into
actually
Vader. Yeah.
right after that. But as Corey was pointing out, you see Obi-Wan Virgin's Temple has 37 decks played, yet its conversion rate is almost non-existent in the top 8.
Yeah, it has let's see, 7 top 8s so far. Not great for how represented it is, and I don't think it's got a single win. I'm not sure. I'd have to double check, but I don't think it really has because it's just, again, it's when it hits what it wants to do, it's nearly unbeatable. But it doesn't usually hit that, or oftentimes their opponent has the answer for it.
So, Jin Urso, also a heavily played deck. It's also one not converting very well, honestly.
Yeah,
Um,
got 1 tournament win and 4 conversions on her as well. It's
Boba
a neat deck,
has,
but I don't think I don't think you can get there yet.
yep, Boba has some of the better conversion rates, and it's not played as much at the moment.
Hmm.
Mother Talzin, heavily played, also not converting as much.
Yeah, Tall's in yellow, 2 top 8s, no wins at all. I think it's interesting when you look and see Chewy there. Chewy has been doing well. Has a couple top 8s and a tournament win with only 9 decks played. So pretty good numbers there for Chewy.
Yeah, Tobias Beck has a 23% conversion rate.
Yep.
I mean,
Still
Boba Fett's
got people
conversion is
messing.
57.
Yep. Boba's been really strong. We're still seeing a lot of other decks getting messed around with. Poe pops up here and there. We got 3 Poe JTLs, which is what most people are still going with. But it's going to be interesting to see how things continue to play out. Uh, we're seeing a lot of diversity still. That's I think the biggest thing here. Yes, you need to know how you're going to deal with space decks. You
Mm-hmm.
have to have a plan. You have to have a way to beat them. And you can just figure. Fortunately, you can just plan generic space deck. You don't need to specifically target any of them because any game that's going to get you into one of them is going to help you with probably all of them.
So Space Sentinels will help in some regard. However, you also then need to have, especially against these yellow decks, an answer for Galen Urso,
Galen.
the yellow one, who is going to go to your side of the board and give all of your opponents Saboteur and get right on through to the other side.
Yep. Yeah. Be watching out for that. It's a problem for you. It can definitely mess you up. So be aware. That's going to be something you need to answer. They also have the 1 cost that gives you overwhelm that I can't remember the name of. So our
Commence
saboteur,
the
the 1 cost
ceremonies.
that gives you saboteur, you commence the ceremonies. Yeah. So your sentinels are not probably your best answers. If you're red, obviously upgrade removal is good. Combined with maybe some sentinels, combined with if you're in yellow, some bounce is a good way to handle them. Axe Forgets is a good sideboard with a lot of small
Oh,
ships.
I meant to put this in the next slide thing that we're going to do, but that would have been a good
Yeah,
card. Arrest, if you're yellow, is a very good
arrest.
one because that will, if
Yellow
nothing else,
black,
get rid
right?
of the upgrade. It is yellow black. It will
Yeah.
get rid of the upgrade on the opponent's unit. So, and things like Chewbacca are not immune to arrest. So,
Yes. Chewbacca can be captured. So,
yep,
or his ship can be
the
captured.
ship
Just
can
can't
be
be
captured
bounced
and that
or,
ejects him off of it. So,
yeah. So anybody playing yellow black, arrest is a very good card to be considering.
basically, if you're not playing red and have the immediate upgrade removal, you need to look at the ways that can remove upgrades in a
Mhm.
roundabout way, is essentially what you
Yes.
have to be doing. So,
Yes.
usually green means you're capturing the units, yellow means you're bouncing the units, blue just wants to straight up remove the units entirely.
Hmm.
That's kind of the go-tos of what you're trying to do. So, what can you do that will achieve that without having straight up removal? It's kind of weird that a mechanic is color locked, but it
Yeah.
also means that you have to make choices. The problem is that as we've seen, the market share right now is primarily aggression, and that comes because of 2 reasons mainly. The first one is, of course, that all the upgrade removal is in aggression. Second one
Hmm.
is because this card still exists, and this card is
Yep.
probably the number one finisher that is out there on the market right now. So this is something that can make your game of a 30 hit base feel like a 15 health base because they can just have one unit smack you for 12 to 15 in one go, and then it's like you're dead. So
Yeah. Yeah, I still think it's an ongoing issue. I still think it's a card that will probably need to be banned eventually because I mean, all these aggro decks are using it, and it's giving them that extra advantage, and is part of the reason they're being so dominant. It's not the only reason, but it would help maybe tamp things down a little bit and slow the game down just a little bit.
I don't think it's a ban worthy card. I think it's a meta adapt card. Realistically, this is a 3 cost surprise strike, right? Because unless the deck is geared and designed to collect cards in their hand, like a red blue that's using the Chio Fein, etc., like the Jin Ursos do and stuff like that, most of the time you're going to have 2 or 3 cards in your hand. You're going to claim so that you can draw 2 cards and immediately play this. Thus, it would be a +4 attack because you had 5 cards in your hand and you used one of them as this is one of those cards out of your hand. Because if you're doing a pace game, resource 1 card, play 1 card, resource 1 card, play 1 card, then you should only have those 3 cards in your hand from turn 1. You have to be drawing extra cards beyond that. So that's why I say this is basically a surprise strike. Unless you've played cards that are getting extra cards in your hand, this is only paying 3 to get 3, maybe 4 plus that attack.
Disagree a bit on that just because these aggro decks usually stop resourcing at around 5 or maybe 6, and
Sure.
they start to build up that hand very quickly with the card draw per turn, and
Sure.
it becomes very large very quickly. And again, this is where I see it as an issue. It becomes a point where every little tiny ping damage from early on is just getting you that much closer to 10 damage out of nowhere, killing you from this little 2/4 that you didn't kill,
Yeah.
or couldn't kill because they put out 4 units, and you're just like, well, shit.
I'm not
Um,
saying it's not something to be cognizant of. What I am saying is that if you're aware of what it is and what's going to happen, just like pilots are something that you have to tech and adapt to, this is a card you have to tech and adapt to. And there is even answers for this that exist in the game. And so it's if you choose not to play those things, is that not a choice you made in your deck construction and not a weakness that you exposed yourself to at that point in time?
yes, but I mean, the flip side of that, when I would argue this, it's the same issue that also another card on our list has as well, in that yes, there are sometimes answers to it, but sometimes there just is not an answer, and it it's frustrating when you know it's coming, then you know there's absolutely nothing you can do about it, and there's just no way to deal with it.
So is it that there is no way to do with it or just not a good way, not a clean way, not an ideal way? Because I will go on to my next slide to show you an example of it. And this goes back to our Towson thing. Towson supposedly was supposed to be touted as the ground champion. She is so hard to deal with on the ground because of all the -1/-1s and the ambushes and the force generation, everything else that you can do. She controls the ground on a tempo basis very, very well. She gets slaughtered by space decks. Space decks
Yes.
just run her over. So how do you answer that? Let me introduce you to a little thing called Ion Cannon. You look at
Yeah.
this card and you think, "Oh, that sucks. I would never play that." This is from the Hoth intro set. But this card, if you're playing a space deck, I'm a 0/5. 5 is a great threshold to have. I'm now doing 3 damage to your space unit, and oh look, my Talisman can now give it -1/-1. I can start taking out your 4 health space units, which are pretty much the common things in space, right? And you're not going to have a great way of interacting with this. Air superiority doesn't cut it. I have 5 health. You only do 4 damage. Your little ping, yeah, from Luke might then be able to finish me off. But now you're diverting a lot of attention down to this opposed to developing your board, which is then letting me catch up at that same time. You can also combine that with a little thing called Darth Treya. Now I'm giving your unit -2/-2 and pinging you for 3 back to back at that point in time. So I'm now able to develop a board that deals with yours, and if you don't interact with me, I slowly ping your board away. At the same time, I'm pushing damage on you. The other thing to note on the ion cannon here, its tag says weapon. Most of these things that you have in your deck that are upgrades say non-vehicle don't apply to this. You can still put them on the ion cannon and swing at their face as well if they don't have any space units.
Yes, I like what you're saying there. I like the idea of Ion Cannon. I think that is a neat card. I think it's a little too slow for the current meta.
It's
That
an
I think
answer.
the four resource cost, and then you're not going to be able to hit for 3 until the 5 turn is a little too slow to really stop these space decks. By that point, sure, you can ping one of my ships for 3. I don't care anymore.
We live in a world of credits where costs are a little fluid at the moment. So 4 is not necessarily 4.
They are, but I don't think there's also a lot of. You're not getting a lot of turn 1 or turn 2 credits. But it really needs to be turn 1 to get this on turn 2. You want this as the turn 2 play.
The question
Uh,
is, can you adapt? That's what sideboards are for, right? So if your sideboard turns into nothing but trying to answer space because space is your weakness and you go against a pilot deck and you start teching in stuff like this, is it a
yeah,
great answer? No, it's not a I play one card and annihilate your entire side. But if I'm slowing you down enough that I can get to my hyperspace disaster that absolutely decimates you at that point in time, that's all I need to do. I don't need to win the game on the card. I need to slow you down with the card.
yeah.
The
No,
other thing,
it's an interesting card. Yeah,
the other thing is Sly More. Sly More is a plot card to make all your things do -2 damage. Sure,
hmm
it slows you down. It doesn't answer the problem in space, and it's not a good like push damage unit itself, but it slows you down.
yeah,
So,
yep,
like I said, my point is I think there's answers for all these problems that exist. It's the willingness for the players to actually use them that is what I think holds them back from trying to find these answers. Because most people, like
yeah,
you said, they look at this card and go, ew, that's slow.
yeah.
I think it has a lot of merit.
Potentially, but again, as I said, yeah, I agree that there's a lot of answers. I just feel like aggressive negotiations and the other card we'll mention in minutes, both don't have much for answers. It's just if that happens, I lose the game. Great, okay. There's I yes, you can run a few hand removal cards, but that's 3 cards of your deck. There's very little things to deal with it. It doesn't feel great, is what I'm coming back to.
Sure.
It's the negative play experience is really what you get out of it. It they need the game needs to be slowed down a little bit. It's going a little too fast.
I would say that the negative play experience isn't there from aggressive negotiations for my point, but I will cater to your point in that this card offers a negative
Yeah,
play experience.
it's
And
not fun.
I think a lot of it boils down to there is only currently one card that interacts with plots, and
Yep.
it doesn't do a whole lot against this because it still is a chance to interact with. It's not a guaranteed to interact with card. So
Yeah. Yeah.
this, since it comes from the plot or from your resource row, is uninteractable with because there is nothing except for that one card that I can do, and that card is aspect locked as well.
Yeah.
Um, I can't do it. I can't interact with this.
Yeah. This one, there is definitely a strong case for this potentially needing a ban as well in the future, especially for seeing if the boba proliferation continues and gets worse, because it is specifically it makes boba feel really bad too, because boba is constantly pinging you with indirect damage that you have to put on some units. He
You don't
also
have
gets to
to.
do 4. Well, you don't have to, but you usually need to stay alive. You also he also gets to spread 4 damage out on his flip turn before activating this, and he just decimates your board.
I
And
think
it
that's the
just
bigger problem.
oh, I just lost the game.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think that's the
it
bigger
feels
problem.
like Django. It feels like Django's. Your whole board is exhausted now. You're done.
Yeah, and I think that that's the bigger problem is that he has that inherent ability to distribute the damage to then do this, which then accentuates and maximizes the damage that this can possibly do to your opponent's board. That's what makes this that real feels bad.
Yeah.
So
Well, and the combo of, as you said, like this is worse than regressive negotiations. There is nothing you can do about this.
right.
The only card that interacts with plot is it's a bad card. It's a very bad card because it's also an RNG of it's pick 2, right? Or
3.
3. Yeah, pick 3, hope you hit it. Maybe, but you might miss it also, or they might have just had it in their hand and not put it down yet.
My
Who
luck is that they
knows?
just didn't even put it down yet, and then it's going to be in their hand. And then, oh, by the
Yeah.
way, were you looking for this?
Yeah. This is it's the main reason we're seeing a lot of boba. It's the main reason I think we're going to see a lot more boba. It's not, the games aren't unwinnable when he hits that. I think they're unwinnable for a good number of decks, but you can plan around it. But it just feels bad. It just becomes oh, all right. Well, I guess that's a game. I'll just stand up and walk away now because this is you just emptied my board. Great,
So
wonderful.
you can play around this slightly.
Slightly, yes.
And the way you play around this is shielded units.
Yep.
Because indirect damage, which is how Boba weakens you, does not get rid of your shields. It goes through your shields and shit on your hit points. So you retain your shield the entire time. So while this can target you as a damaged unit, the 3 damage from this would just remove your shield. So they would have to remove your shield in an additional way.
But
So,
again, this is where Boba is the problem with this because he can just do it with his flip and distribute the 4 damage.
but then you're not damaged if you haven't taken indirect on you prior to that.
If you haven't taken indirect on it, but you're usually going to because you got a shielded unit. So
In a
it's
lot of ways. I'm just stating that, like,
yeah,
as the if Boba is the boogeyman, and this is the deck that you have to be cognizant of. It's a matter of finding the play lines, finding the ways to counteract what's going to happen or what you assume is going to happen to you. One way would be to build your deck with a lot of shielded units. Therefore, he's having to do that. That means it also prevents you from having your opponent play this out of their hand ahead of time. Because remember, they can
yeah,
play this ahead of time before Boba even flips out if they really wanted to on the 5 resource turn.
yep.
So it's a matter of taking measures in your design process, your deck construction, to counteract the things that you know are going to cause you the most problems as best as you can. If there is no answers plausible, that's when you should be banning or looking to ban or suspend or whatever a card.
Yeah. And that's where I think it potentially may end up. It feels like it may end up needing to go that way with Topple just because, as you mentioned, yes, there's a few small answers, but they're very minor and they don't really solve the problem. Uh, it just, yeah, it feels so bad. Every time it happens to me, I'm just like, all right, I'm done playing Boba. I'm saying if it feels like Django again of I don't want to play this. This isn't fun.
Well, it's somewhat worse than Django because Django, you at least got to keep your units in play. They were just
Yeah.
exhausted. So if you could interact with an exhausted unit in some way, shape, or form to make utilization out of it, you're fine. This goes back to it's basically a baby board wipe.
Yeah. It's just an entire board wipe. But it's a super laser blast, but for just your half of the board.
Sure.
And on 6 or
And then
5.
it's if you play it in the Boba Blue, which has been a common thing. Now, not only do you get Topple the Summit on your flip turn or your 5 drop or whatever, now you're going to end up getting or single ignition,
Single
whatever,
reactor ignition. Yeah.
single reactor ignition on 8 even potentially after that. So now they got almost like 2 board wipes. That's
Yeah.
gross.
Yeah, it we'll see how this plays out, but this is an area of concern for me right now. Like again, it pushes the meta even more into aggro because it becomes you need to do enough damage to be able to easily win either before this happens or very shortly after. Even if you got your board wiped, you just need a little more damage.
Yeah, but I mean that's been aggro since day one. If you don't win by 6 resource turn, you've probably lost the game.
Oh no, what I'm saying is that makes it for most decks to really compete against Boba. A lot of the time, you need that. Yes, there is some exceptions, but most other decks, mid range and control. Well, control doesn't have an issue, but control has the problem of all the aggro, obviously. But mid range, just you get your board wiped, and then you just, well, okay, I got not much else I can do.
So here's the other thing to consider is breakpoints. We've talked about this in the past. What are the major breakpoints to have happen, right? So
Mhm.
as you are distributing damage onto your own units, being cognizant of the fact that they could topple the summit and then just add 3 to kill your unit is something to be considerate of. So when you're distributing the damage, if you can prevent that from happening, then you're fine, right?
Yeah,
So if you were a naked unit, a 5 health unit, by and large, you say you had 4 or 5 health units. Well, Boba can't flip and topple and kill. He can only do
yeah,
it to half of your squad, not the entire thing. So again, breakpoints, healing, maybe some unit healing starts coming into the game because I'm going to take the damage on this dude, and then I'm going to heal the damage off this dude.
yeah,
Maybe that's a
yeah.
thing.
That's worth considering. I mean, I definitely see it with. I mean, I'll mention that with like the Poe Yellows. I don't have a great matchup into Boba, but I also don't feel terrible going into it just because usually I go wide and big health units, and that makes his topple not as good. I just get as many units out as wide as possible. I keep them healthy. I add pilots onto them, and it becomes, well, yeah, you're not able to kill all of this. And I'm pushing damage with all those units that makes it so I can get him close enough to die.
You know what else? You know what else was a big thorn in Boba Fett's side before?
Uh,
Grogu.
no, Grogu. Yep, Grogu was the big problem. Yep.
People, well, then the whole thing was is that Grogu came out on say turn 1 in a Han 2 deck, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can get a Grogu out, then you can start redirecting all that indirect damage right back at them. So
Yeah.
is Grogu an option
True.
to then prevent your indirect damage from doing so much to you? I don't know. Maybe it's the
Grogu on
resurgence of him.
turn two is not a bad idea. I think that is worth considering in some more decks. Heroic decks, obviously, but yeah, I think heroic
Sure.
decks, 3 cost Grogu is still going to be able to take out some of those space units and keep your units alive. So, and it's also a damage sponge. It's a 6 health
That
unit.
that's basically what Grogu would be in there for, would be a damage sponge. And then you
Yeah,
can redirect slash quote unquote heal your units that you want to keep alive and outside of that danger threshold and redirect it right at your opponent.
yeah.
So, yes, he might not be able to come out on turn 1 anymore, but does that matter?
No, yeah, I think he's still potentially has a good place there. So yeah, that is worth considering for anybody doing heroic decks, particularly obviously Force heroic.
Well, no, he doesn't need the
Uh,
force at all. Like, there's nothing about
no,
him
he
that requires
doesn't.
the force.
I'm
So,
just saying, obviously, if you are a force deck, it is a force unit you should be looking at this point in
sure,
time because it can still get you the force. Yeah, he
sure.
does, and he can, you can slap a constructed lightsaber or a Yoda's lightsaber on him and go to town as well.
That's the thing about Yoda's lightsaber that I've always thought was odd is that
Yeah,
almost every other lightsaber. No, I guess they don't require you to be the Force. You usually just get a
no, they usually
bonus
don't.
if you're the
Yeah,
Force. I think
usually
the
a
only one that
bonus.
requires you to be a Force is constructed lightsaber.
Yes. Yep.
I think.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah. But yeah, it's still an open meta. I still think there is potential for other surprise decks to be popping up in the future.
like the one I'm working on,
Yeah,
I'm still excited that nobody's doing the one that I'm working on yet.
yeah, the one you're working on. I'm going back to. I'm messing with Avar Chris Yellow again a little bit, but space is really a big problem for her, and that's an issue that I'm still trying to work around. And probably would help if I had liberties to actually build her because I only pulled 1 liberty. But that's how it goes sometimes.
Well, if
Waiting
I
for
don't
those
use
prices to
them, you
come
can
down.
borrow them. So
Oh yeah, but I'm just waiting for those prices to come down. Obviously,
we'll see. We'll have to see what else is gonna like creep up on you. But still, I mean, okay. So this is the other thing that was kind of amusing is I've taken all of my hyperspace foils that I've gotten out of packs and put them off to the side. I don't really care about hyperspace foil. I like hyperspace, don't really care about the foil. And I know some people like to bling out their deck.
Oh yeah,
However,
that would be me,
sure.
obviously.
But what I'm discovering is because of the abundance of hyperspace foils now, the value of hyperspace foil is down.
Yeah,
Like
which I
people,
appreciate.
yes and no, because now, whereas you might have had something good that, hey, it's just a common, but it's a hyperspace foil common, so now like some like trade value went up on it. Now it's not there anymore. So it's
Yeah,
like what did have some value in the past doesn't have some value now. So it's, where was your trade-off on this? I think I'm okay with it still, but it was just kind of interesting. It was like, oh, I thought I had some good trade material. No, not really.
no, not at all. I
Now it's
mean,
just like
I
I got the shinies.
yeah. Again, I don't hate it just because I like to bling out the decks and make them pretty, and if I could do it cheaply, that's great.
Yep.
Anytime I can get all these cards for cheap and easy to trade for, awesome. That's
Yep.
wonderful. So yeah, for somebody like me who doesn't really care about the trade value of my stuff, I'm just trying to get pretty stuff to play with. Awesome.
I'm on the same page. It just was an interesting observation I had the other day, kind of thing, where it was like, oh, I used to like people want these. Oh, but now they don't really want them as bad. I'm okay with that because I would much rather have it easier for me to get my hands on them as well, like you. So I
Yeah.
definitely like the pack opening experience a lot better now than I did in the past. So,
Yep. Exactly. All right. With that,
yep, that's all we got for you. So, again, we're just diving into the PQ season. So, have your answers for pilots. Always consider aggressive negotiations and try not to get toppled. We'll see you guys next time.
see everybody. Thanks.